Hi, and welcome to Great Expectations. I am Darylyn Brewster. I'm one of the Adult Services Specialists here at the Washington Centerville Public Library. And many of you already know my co-host, Debbie Dawkins. She is the library's outreach coordinator and runs many of the library's book discussions that many of you belong to. Today, we are going to introduce you to some hot new releases that you can request at the end of our presentation. Debbie, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started with one of my favorite. Oh, these are my picks. This is Facing the Mountain by Daniel James Brown. If you read The Boys in the Boats, you're going to know this is a book you don't want to miss. This is a nonfiction book, and it's going to read like fiction. In coordination with DenShow, a Seattle nonprofit organization that preserves oral histories of Japanese Americans that were imprisoned in the U.S. during World War II, Daniel James Brown chronicles the journey of 4 young men from Hawaii and the West Coast of the U.S. as they fought for their freedom during the Second World War. Facing the Mountain is a gripping World War II saga highlighting the contributions and sacrifices that Japanese immigrants and their American-born children made. The courageous Japanese American Army unit that overcame brutal odds in Europe, their families incarcerated back home, and a young man who refused to surrender his constitutional rights, even if it meant imprisonment. This one just came out May 11th. In fact, I just got my hold. This next one is The 100 Years of Lenny and Margo. It's by Marianne Cronin. It's released on June 1st. 17-year-old Lenny Peterson lives on the terminal ward at the Glasgow Princess Royal Hospital. And though she has been told she's dying, she still has plenty of living to do. Joining the hospital arts and crafts class, she meets the magnificent Margo, an 83-year-old, purple pajama-wearing, fruitcake-eating rebel who transforms Lenny in ways she never imagined. This is a charming, fiercely alive, and disarmingly funny debut novel. It's in the vein of John Green, Rachel Joyce, and Jojo Moyes. It's a brave testament to the power of living each day to the fullest and a tribute to the stories that we live and a reminder of our unlimited capacity for friendship and love. This sounds absolutely amazing. If you like it, let us know. The next one on my list is 123 by Lori Frankel, and it comes out June 8th. For a few weeks, 17 years ago, the little town of Bourne was national news when its water turned green. The poisoning of the water supply became so severe that the factory producing it, the town's single employer, was shut down, which led to the entire town being nearly evacuated. Everyone now left behind is either disabled or unemployed, and you still can't drink the water, or even risk more than a few seconds in the shower. Now, the Mitchell triplets have come of age in Bourne, watching their mother's endless fight for justice, trying to mount a class action suit. But just when it seems life might go on the same forever, the first moving truck anyone's seen in years pulls up and unloads new residents. Soon, the sisters are taking on a system stacked against them and uncovering mysteries buried longer than they've been alive. Because it's hard to let go of the past when the past won't let go of you. So this one comes out June 8th. This is a laugh out loud on one page, grab a tissue on the next page novel written as only Lori Frankel can. Our next one is Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins. It comes out June 8th. Joshua and Lauren are a perfect couple. They are newly, wildly in love, newly married, and each on their own successful and rewarding career paths. And then Lauren is diagnosed with a terminal illness. As Lauren's disease progresses, Joshua struggles to make the most of the time he has left with his wife and to come to terms with his future, a future without the only woman he's ever loved. He's so consumed with finding a way to avoid the inevitable ending that he never imagines what his life will be like after she is gone. But Lauren has a plan to keep her husband moving forward, a plan hidden in the letters she leaves him. In those letters, one for every month in the year after her death, Lauren leads Joshua on a journey through pain, anger, and denial, and teaches him a valuable lesson along the way. The path to happiness doesn't follow a straight line. I think that one sounds like a good one. We were thinking it might be similar to one that's already out there, but it should still be a good one. Okay, so this one is a thriller. This is Murder at Sunrise Lake by Kristen Fian. It comes out June 29th. Kristen Fian reaches new heights of passion and suspense in this thrilling novel that takes readers deep into the California backcountry, where a woman is tormented by visions of a killer. Stella Harrison thought she got away from the traumas of her past. Running the Sunrise Lake Resort high in the Sierra Nevada mountains has brought her peace, even though she doesn't truly share her quiet life with anyone. Not even Sam, the hired handyman that notices everything and always seems to know exactly what she needs. Stella doesn't know anything about Sam's past, but somehow over the last 2 years, his slow, steady presence has slipped past her defenses. Still, she knows she can't tell him about her recent premonitions. So far, there's been no murder, no body, no way to prove what's about to happen without destroying the life she's built for herself. So this one's coming out June 29th. Keep your eye out for it. The next one on my list is Silver Tears by Camilla Lackberg. It's coming out July 6th. Faye Adelheim is living a delicious lie. She is wealthy beyond imagination. She is the chairman of her self-made global cosmetics brand. And her ex-husband, the monster who killed her beloved daughter Julianne, is living out the remainder of his days behind bars. But unbeknownst to the journalists, the police officers, and investors, and even the occasional lover, Faye has a secret. Her daughter is, in fact, alive. And so is her mother, the woman Faye's father was sentenced to allegedly killing years ago. This is a bold, mesmerizing story of seduction, deceit, and female power. A woman's secret cannot stay buried forever. So our next one is The Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix, and it comes out July 13th. In horror movies, The final girl is the one who's left standing when the credits roll. The one who fought back, defeated the killer, and avenged her friends. The one who emerges bloody, but victorious. But after the sirens fade and the audience moves on, what happens to her? Lynette Tarkington is a real-life final girl who survived a massacre 22 years ago, and it's defined every day of her life since. And she's not alone. For more than a decade, she's been meeting with 5 other actual final girls and their therapist in a support group for those who survived the unthinkable, trying to put their lives back one piece at a time. That is until one of the women misses a meeting and Lynette's worst fears are realized. Someone knows about the group and is determined to take their lives apart again, piece by piece. But the thing about these final girls is that they have each other now. And no matter how bad the odds, how dark the night, how sharp the knife, they will never, ever give up. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, you can tell I kind of like thrillers just a little bit. So our next one is by Megan Miranda, and it comes out July 13th. It's called Such a Quiet Place. Hallows Edge used to be a private and idyllic neighborhood where neighbors looked out for one another. But then came the murder of Brandon and Fiona Truitt. And a year and a half later, Hallows Edge is simmering. The residents are trapped, unable to sell their homes, confronted daily by the empty Truitt house, and suffocated by their trial testimonies that implicated one of their own, Ruby Fletcher. And now, Ruby's back. With her conviction overturned, Ruby waltzes right back to Hallows Edge and into the home she once shared with Harper Nash, who has always treated Ruby like a wayward younger sister. Within days of Ruby's return, suspicion spreads like a virus across Hallows Edge. It's increasingly clear that not everyone told the truth about the night of the Truitt's murders. And when Harper begins receiving threatening notes, she realizes she has to uncover the truth before someone else becomes the killer's next victim. So this is a twisty, locked box thriller that will keep you turning pages late into the night. I know I'm looking forward to toothpicks right here to keep my eyes open the next day. All right, Karen Slaughter is a New York Times best-selling author, and she has written another one. This is called False Witness, and it's coming out July 20th. Lee Collier has worked hard to build what looks like a normal life. She's an up-and-coming defense attorney at a prestigious law firm in Atlanta who would do anything for her 16-year-old daughter, Maddie, and is managing to successfully co-parent through a pandemic after an amicable separation with her husband. But Lay's ordinary life masks a childhood no one should have to endure. A childhood tarnished by secrets, broken by betrayal, and ultimately destroyed by a brutal act of violence. Lay's desire for normalcy is ended when she gets a call from one of her firm's partners who wants her to come on board to defend a wealthy man accused of multiple counts of rape. The worry of this case, it becomes apparent she doesn't have much choice if she wants to keep her job. But when she meets the accused face to face, she realizes that it's no coincidence that he specifically asked for her to represent him. She knows him, and he knows her. More to the point, he may know what happened over 20 years ago, and why Leigh has spent 2 decades avoiding her past. So if that one sounds like a good one, let us know at the end of our presentation. And this is the last of my picks coming up. This is a Stephen King, not quite a horror this time. Billy Summers is a killer for hire and the best in the business, but he'll do the job only if the target is a truly bad guy. And now Billy wants out. But first, there is one last hit. Billy is among the best snipers in the world, a decorated Iraq war vet, a Houdini when it comes to vanishing after the job is done. So what could possibly go wrong? All right. I am going to turn it over to Debbie for her picks. Are you ready?
Almost. Let me find myself here. There I am. Okay, everybody. Darylyn, could you advance that, please?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. The first novel I've chosen is Hour of the Witch by blockbuster writer Chris Bajalian, also author of The Flight Attendant, The Double Bind, and Before You Know Kindness. Too many good ones to name. His newest is published by Doubleday and came out March 4th. It's the story of Mary Deerfield, a young Puritan woman, faithful, resourceful, but afraid of the demons that dog her soul and of an abusive husband. She's the second wife of Thomas Deerfield, a man as cruel as he is powerful. When in a drunken rage Thomas drives a three-tined fork into the back of her hand, Mary resolves to divorce him. But it's 1662, and a woman like Mary, a woman who harbors secret desires and finds it difficult to tolerate the brazen hypocrisy of so many men in the colony, soon finds herself the object of suspicion and rumor. Hour of the Witch is a timely and terrifying novel of socially sanctioned brutality and the original American witch hunt. Author Lisa Scottolini writes that Hour of the Witch is absolutely riveting historical fiction that reads like the most page-turning of thrillers. Next slide, please. Next is an historical nonfiction entitled TheNine, the true story of a band of women who survived the worst of Nazi Germany by Gwen Strauss. This is also released May 4th and it's published by St. Martin's Press. TheNine follows the true story of the author's great aunt who led a band of 9 female resistance fighters as they escaped a German forced labor camp and made a 10-day journey across the front lines of World War II from Germany back to Paris. The 9 women were all under the age of 30 when they joined the resistance. From arms smuggling, harboring foreign agents, escaping through Spain, and hiding Jewish children, they were subjected to a series of prisons and torture by the Gestapo. During the final days of the war, they were forced onto a death march and devised an elaborate and dangerous plan of escape. Drawing on incredible research, this powerful, heart-stopping narrative from Gwen Strauss is a moving tribute to the power of humanity and friendship in the darkest of times. Next slide, please. For fans of Tara Westover's Educated comes Somebody's Daughter by Ashley Ford, a starred review from Kirkus, releasing June 1st. It's a potent coming-of-age memoir from a popular podcaster and BuzzFeed host. Somebody's Daughter recounts her growing up with an incarcerated father and a dangerously overburdened mother. Ford creates fully three-dimensional portraits of her mother, grandmother, and other key players using a child's eye view to show us their failings and the calculations, negotiations, and survival tactics she developed in response to them. Readers may also see a connection to Taraji Jones's novel An American Marriage, as both deal with the effect of a long prison sentence on a Black family, albeit from different angles. Somebody's Daughter is sure to be one of the best memoirs of 2021. Next slide. From Atlantic staff writer and poet Clint Smith, we have How the Word is Passed, a revealing and contemporary portrait of America as a slave-owning nation. It's the story of the Monticello Plantation in Virginia, the estate where Thomas Jefferson wrote letters espousing the urgent need for liberty while enslaving more than 400 people. It's the story of the Whitney Plantation, one of the only former plantations devoted to preserving the experience of the enslaved people whose lives and work sustained it. And it's the story of Angola, a former plantation termed maximum security prison in Louisiana that is filled with Black men who work across the 18,000-acre land for virtually no pay. A deeply researched work of nonfiction, How the Word is Passed, illustrates how some of our country's most essential stories are hidden in plain view, whether in places we might drive by on our way to work, holidays such as Juneteenth, or entire neighborhoods like downtown Manhattan, where the brutal history of the trade has been deeply imprinted. It releases June 1st and is published by Little Brown. Next slide, please. For fans of Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, The Keeper of Lost Things, and Evie Drake Starts Over, comes a funny and tender debut about a reclusive artist whose collection has gotten out of control, but whose unexpected friendship with a pair of new neighbors might be just what she needs to start over. The Missing Treasures of Amy Ashton by Eleanor Ray comes out June 8th and is published by Simon & Schuster. Here's the story. Amy Ashton once dreamed of becoming an artist, but now she simply collects beautiful objects which have begun to take up every available square inch of her house. Having suffered a terrible tragedy, one she staunchly refuses to let herself think about, thank you very much, she's decided that it's easier to love things than people. Things are safe. Things will never leave you. But when a new family moves in next door with two young boys, one of whom has a collection of his own, Amy's carefully managed life starts to unravel, prompting her to question why she began to close herself off in the first place. Quirky and charming, big-hearted and moving, The Missing Treasures of Amy Ashton proves that it's never too late to let go of the things that don't matter and welcome the people who do. Next slide. Embassy Wife by Katie Crouch is one of the most anticipated literary fiction releases this year. It comes out July 13th and is published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux. Two women abroad search for the truth about their husbands and their country. Katie Crouch pulls off an entertaining and insightful expose of diplomatic life in Namibia with the story of three women whose children attend an international school in the country's capital. Persephone, a slightly daft, often drunk, and always patriotic American embassy wife, takes over the school's International Day fundraiser from Mila, a beautiful but imperious Namibian with a mysterious past. Amanda, the newbie, whose husband persuaded her to leave a high-powered job in Silicon Valley, is bored. All three are married to creeps with secrets. Amanda's socializing with Persephone leads to an effort to protect rhinos, one at a time. Personally protecting it, I mean, like visiting it and, patrolling the area. As they scale up the project, their husband's misdeeds surface. Crouch presses her female characters to their limits, reaching notes of genuine triumph without sacrificing the wry comedy, while the red dust and heat of Namibia radiate off the page. Next slide. USA Today best-selling author Samantha Downing is back with her latest sneaky thriller set at a prestigious private school, complete with interfering parents, overeager students, and one teacher who just wants to teach them all a lesson. Berkeley is publishing For Your Own Good, July 20th. Teddy Crutcher has won Teacher of the Year at the esteemed Belmont Academy, home to the best and the brightest. He says his wife couldn't be more proud, though no one has seen her in a while. Teddy really can't be bothered with the death of a school parent that is looking more and more like murder, or the student digging into a little too deeply into Teddy's personal life. His main focus is on pushing these kids to their academic potential. All he wants is for his colleagues and the endlessly meddlesome parents to stay out of his way. It's really too bad that sometimes excellence can come at such a high cost. Next slide. Moving to historical fiction, I've chosen Edgar Award-winning author Naomi Hirahara's new novel, Clark and Division. Set in 1944 Chicago, this eye-opening and poignant new mystery, the story of a young woman searching for the truth about her revered older sister's death, brings to focus the struggles of one Japanese-American family released from mass incarceration at Manzanar during World War II. Inspired by historical events, Clark and Division infuses an atmospheric and heartbreakingly real crime fiction plot with rich period details and delicately wrought personal stories the author has gleaned from 30 years of research and archival work in Japanese American history. Entertainment Weekly writes, Hirahara's well-plotted, wholesome whodunit offers a unique look at LA's Japanese American community with enough twists and local flavor to keep you guessing till the end. Next slide, please. For fans of literary fiction comes the novel Breathe, a story of love and loss from best-selling and prize-winning author Joyce Carol Oates. Amid a starkly beautiful but uncanny landscape in New Mexico, a married couple takes residency at a distinguished academic institute. When the husband is struck with a mysterious illness, misdiagnosed at first, their lives are uprooted and each embarks upon a nightmare journey. The wife has the terrifying prospect of widowhood and the loss of her husband, whose identity has greatly shaped her own. Part intimately detailed love story, part horror story rooted in real life, Breathe is an exploration of hauntedness rooted in the domesticity of marital love, as well as our determination both to be faithful to the beloved and to survive the trauma of loss. Breathe is scheduled to publish via Echo on August 1st. Those are my choices. Now let's get to Felicia's choices. Wonderful reference librarian, very camera shy.
Very camera shy.
Very. The first is Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch, published by Farrar, Straus and Giroux and releasing June 8th, drawing on real historical documents but infused with the intensity of imagination, sly humor, and intellectual fire for which award-winning author Rivka Galchin's writing is known. Everyone Knows Your Mother is a Witch is a tale for our time, the story of how a community becomes implicated in collective aggression and hysterical fear. The year is 1619. Plague is spreading, the 30 Years' War has begun, and fear and suspicion is in the air. An illiterate widow is accused of witchcraft. Provocative and entertaining, Galchin's bold new novel touchingly illuminates a society and a family undone by superstition, the state, and the mortal convulsions of history. A little like Hour of the Witch, but I'm sure also different. I am going to put Darylyn up here. Your turn.
Okay, so we're going to talk about The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. It's being published June 8th by Harper Voyager, and it's a fantasy historical novel. It's in the vein of Naomi Novik's New York Times bestseller Spinning Silver and Catherine Arden's national bestseller The Bear and the Nightingale. This is an unforgettable debut inspired by Hungarian history and Jewish mythology, and it follows a young pagan woman with hidden powers and a prince as they form an unlikely alliance to thwart a tyrant. Here's a little clip. In her forest-veiled pagan village, Avika is an outcast, the only woman without magical power, and daughter of one of the reviled servants of the current fanatical king. When soldiers arrive from the Holy Order of Woodsmen to claim a pagan girl for the king's blood sacrifice, Avika is betrayed by her fellow villagers and surrendered. But when monsters attack the woodsmen en route, slaughtering everyone but Avika and the cold, one-eyed captain, they have no choice but to rely on each other, except he's no ordinary woodsman. He's the disgraced Prince Gaspar, and he knows that his father needs pagan magic to consolidate his power and keep Gaspar's brother from usurping the throne and instigating an even crueler reign of violent zealotry. So this one is coming out June 8th. If you like fantasy and you liked The Bear and the Nightingale, you might want to give this debut a try. Here's the next one. Debbie, you're up.
I'm here. All right. From the author of the full throttle thriller No Exit, Hairpin Bridge by Taylor Adams is a riveting new psychological page-turner featuring a fierce and unforgettable heroine. 3 months ago, Lena Nguyen's estranged twin sister Cambry drove to a remote bridge 60 miles outside of Missoula, Montana, and jumped 200 feet to her death. At least, that is the official police version. But Lena isn't buying it. Now she's come to that very bridge, driving her dead twin's car and armed with a cassette recorder, determined to find out what really happened by interviewing the highway patrolman who allegedly discovered her sister's body. Corporal Raymond Racevic has agreed to meet Lena at the scene. He's sympathetic, forthright, and professional, but his story doesn't seem to add up. For one thing, he stopped Cambry for speeding a full hour before she supposedly leapt to her death. Then there are the 16 attempted 911 calls from her cell phone made in what was, unfortunately, a dead zone. But perhaps most troubling of all, the state trooper is referred to by name in Cambry's final enigmatic text to her sister. Quote, "Please forgive me. I couldn't live with it. Hopefully you can. Officer Racevic." Lena will do anything to uncover the truth. But as her twins' final hours come into focus, Lena's search turns into a harrowing tooth and nail fight for her own survival, one that will test everything she thought she knew about her sister and herself. Hairpin Bridge is published by HarperCollins and releases June 15th.
Okay, so the next one is Dear Miss Metropolitan, a novel by Carolyn Farrell. Fern seeks refuge from her mother's pill popping and boyfriends via Soul Train. Wynne finds salvation in the music of Prince, much to her congregation's dismay. And Jessenia, miles ahead of her classmates at her gifted and talented high school, is a brainy and precocious enigma. None of this matters to Bossman, the monster who abducts them and holds them captive in a dilapidated house in Queens. On the night they are finally rescued, throngs line the block, gawking and claiming ignorance. Among them is lifetime resident Miss Metropolitan. She's an advice columnist for the local weekly. But how could anyone who fancies herself a newspaper woman have missed a horror story unfolding right across the street? And why is it that only 2 of the 3 girls, now women, were found? The mystery haunts the 2 remaining victims, who are subjected to the further trauma of becoming symbols as they continuously adapt to their present and their unrelenting past. This is like Colson Whitehead's The Nickel Boys. Farrell's Dear Miss Metropolitan gives voice to characters surviving unimaginable tragedy. The story is inventively revealed before, during, and after the ordeal in this singular and urgent novel. And it comes out July 6th. Debbie, turning it to you.
All right. This is our last review, and then we'll do some wrap-up things, including have the drawing for the swag bag. We Were Never Here by Andrea Bartz comes out July 13th. It's published by Random House. Well, Ballantine Books, but same old, same old. Emily is having the time of her life. She's in the mountains of Chile with her best friend Kristen on their annual reunion trip, and the women are feeling closer than ever. But on the last night of the trip, Emily enters their hotel suite to find blood and broken glass on the floor. Kristen says the cute backpacker she brought back to their room attacked her, and she had no choice but to kill him in self-defense. Even more shocking? The scene is horrifyingly similar to last year's trip when another backpacker wound up dead. Emily can't believe it's happened again. Can lightning really strike twice? Back home in Wisconsin, Emily struggles to bury her trauma, diving headfirst into a new relationship and throwing herself into work. But when Kristen shows up for a surprise visit, Emily is forced to confront their violent past. The more Kristen tries to keep Emily close, the more Emily questions her motives. As Emily feels the walls closing in on their cover-ups, she must reckon with the truth about her closest friends. Can Emily outrun the secrets she shares with Kristen, or will they destroy her friendship, her relationship, her freedom, and even her life? We Were Never Here will be released July 13th. So that concludes our review for today. Let me get us back Take myself off of there.
And
And
I'm gonna,
Darylyn, do you want to stop sharing the screen?
yeah.
All right, awesome. We'll
Do you want to stop
go.
the recording?
Yes.